Hello and welcome to Oakville Matters. Today we're joining Effie Trianopoulos and Stephen Crawford, who are the MPPs for Oakville, North Burlington, and Oakville, respectively. And we'll get Effie to explain to us the meaning of Oakville, North Burlington, and how much Oakville that is. Effie?
Good afternoon, Mayor. Thank you very much for the invitation to be with you. As you know, I represent the north part of Oakville and the north part of Burlington. So essentially, most of Oakville that is bounded by Upper Middle Road and up to about Lower Baseline Road is the part that I represent. Although I know that Stephen Crawford has a slight part of his riding that reaches up into the north part as well. It's bounded by 9th Line over to the part in Burlington.
Okay, so can we trick you into saying that you like the Oakville part of your riding more than the Burlington part?
I love my community. I love my riding. I love all of it.
Good answer. Good answer. You may have a future as an MPP. Stephen, do you want to talk about your northern territory just to finish rounding out what we do?
Well, thanks, Mayor Burton. And I can unequivocally say that Oakville, as much as I love Burlington, is a better community than Burlington. So proud Oakvillian. Live in Southeast Oakville, Mayor Burton, as do you. And our boundary is, it's everything south of Upper Middle within Oakville. And there's a northern part, as you mentioned, which is just to the east of 8th Line. So that would include the Joshua Creek area, for example, that is part of the Oakville, overall Oakville boundary. So Oakville's a community right now that has 1.5 MPPs, but as we grow, I'm sure at some point in the future, we'll have 2 MPPs.
Well, what is the rough number of people per MPP? Do you happen to know that?
Yeah, well, Oakville, as you know, is approximately 200,000, and the riding's about 125,000. So I'm sure in a few years future, we'll probably get a dedicated 2 MPPs. But as boundaries change, I believe Elections Ontario reviews that every 6 to 8 years.
Yeah, okay. Well, we're appearing, the first time this show appears is February 9th, and February 9th is the day we get the census, but we're recording it on the 8th, so we don't know yet what our population is going to be by the time we appear. But I have a suspicion it'll be a bit more than 200,000, so maybe we're closer than we thought. Well, we'll see what happens. But anyway, I want to start by thanking you two for how much you have done for our community. And there's several things, and since I like all 3 of them, well, actually, there's 5 of them. I like all 5 of them so much, I'm going to mention each one. The first thing is, you joined our community and successfully staved off the threat of amalgamation into a city of Halton. And I don't have to tell you, because you heard from the residents just how horrified people were at that concept. And thank you for working with the community to successfully defend our identity. That was big. And then I'm not sure everybody knows this, because it came, or it went and came back so fast that I'm not sure everybody noticed. But you guys helped save the Ford plant. You and the Trudeau government. The Ford government and Trudeau government got together, and in 2020 agreed, after Ford announced that it was shutting down the Oakville assembly plant. Thank you very much for keeping the single biggest industry, the biggest deal we've got in Oakville here, and it has a new future as an electric car maker, and how great is that? The environment and the climate change issues will benefit from that. And then third, but maybe even more important, you guys really added your weight and your voice to saving the Glen Abbey, cultural heritage landscape. And that was huge. And it's even bigger because the previous government before you had twice refused to do it. So extra kudos to you and your government for that. And then Effie, I don't want to leave Stephen out of this, and I know that every member of the legislature gets some credit for this, but almost 700 long-term care beds after I spent 15 years asking the previous governments for the 800 long-term care beds that our analysis showed we were short. Well done. And by the way, we're still looking for the other 100. And then finally, huge thing for me was converting our bus fleet to electric buses. And we got, thanks to you and the Trudeau government, we got enough money to convert half of our fleet to electric buses, and that's huge. And I bet you can guess what's on my wish list for the future. That would be the other half. And I want to put a little pepper with this particular thank you. I was distressed when my good friend and fellow mayor, Patrick Brown, got all of his buses. He got his entire fleet converted. And I thought, gee, that was unexpected that Ford government would like the Mayor Brown more than the Oakville mayor. But anyway, that's my effort at cheap political humor for you now. So what have you got in store for us, guys? What's left in the bag? Can we look forward to anything? Or have you worn yourself out getting up to this point?
Well, I guess I could start, Mayor Burton, and I can tell you that Premier Ford has great admiration for both you and Patrick Brown, so don't worry about that. Loves both communities, most definitely. And I'll tell you, as much as we'll work on the buses, I can promise you that, but let's keep in mind that in terms of hospitals and hospital beds per capita, Oakville's far better position than Brampton. So we'll do what we can on the buses though, for sure, and we definitely are moving in the right direction. So you mentioned a few issues that both Effie and I have really stood up for. We've stood up for Oakville, we've stood up for the residents, and we stood up back to the last election. These were some of the key issues that we really felt strongly about. Number one, Glen Abbey. You mentioned that the previous government did nothing on this file for many, many years. And this is Glen Abbey was a key component to our re-election. We both promised to do absolutely as much as we could to preserve that green space for a number of reasons. I mean, whether it be the green space, the species at risk in the area, the traffic volumes, which would have gone off the roof. And as you mentioned earlier about Oakville being the best community in Canada to live in, we want to make sure we keep it that way. And we have growth. We want to have growth in our community, and we'll probably touch on that a little later in this particular interview, but it's got to be in the right spot. So going forward, I think I'll speak for myself and then I can pass it to Effie, but I want to make sure that Oakville remains Canada's best place to live. And how we're going to do that is have growth, but make sure it's in the right spots, make sure we maintain green space. I know our government did a consultation most recently about the green belt, and this potentially is the largest expansion into the green belt in Ontario's history since the green belt was created. And so we're looking forward to that with the 14 Mile Creek area. So there's a lot more to do. We certainly want to make business and life more affordable for residents of Ontario. But these are, I think, a key things that we would like to pursue should we be reelected come June 2nd.
Well, as I hinted, I do have a list of things that we're looking forward to, and we haven't even scratched the surface of that. And that's things you've already promised and that we're already doing. So
yeah, I look forward to
get through those. Effie, it's your turn.
Yeah, thank you. Let me add my voice to what Stephen has said as well. You're absolutely right. Working together as a united community, we were able to stop the Green Abbey, I'm calling it the Green Abbey, the Glen Abbey golf course from future development. And that just said to me how much can be done when all political levels of government and our community coalesce around a united front and are able to make the case to the government of the day as we did. So for my part, it just showed me how when we're all rowing in the same direction, anything is possible. Even as you say, Mayor, for years, you were told by previous governments that it was not possible. And both Stephen and I, as you know, before we got elected, made a joint statement that we were going to advocate on behalf of our community about the Glen Abbey Golf Course. And I'm delighted to see that, in fact, our Premier and Minister Clark listened. The one thing you can say about our Premier is that he listens. He gives you his personal phone number, and then you can use it and call him whenever you want. So I know that you and he are great fans of each other. So I want to thank you very much for mentioning that. The other part that Stephen mentioned as well, that's very close to my heart, is the whole issue about green environment and green space in our community. And as you may be aware, I introduced a motion last year in the Ontario legislature to expand the green belt, and it received unanimous consent from all parties at the time. And later on in the summer last year, you'll recall that Minister Clark came here to Oakville, and together we all announced that we'd be adding 120 acres of land along 14 Mile Creek to the green belt. So that's an important part of our future for our children and grandchildren as well. And I just once again underline how well the town, how you personally and all of council have worked so well with Stephen and myself on all of those priority issues to our community. And I just think that united, there's nothing that we can't overcome, including that last ask you mentioned about the buses.
Thank you. Well, you know, the in the budget that's about to come out, it was a very unusual budget consultation that the Minister of Finance authorized. Normally you get, what I used to get was 3 minutes period. You know, there's a line of people, and you get to step up to a lectern and you talk for 3 minutes, and boom, you know, the hook comes out and away you go. And this time there were like 6 different topics, and there was a small group, and thanks to the miracle of Zoom, if I can call it that, and we had 3 minutes on each topic, each of us. And so they put a lot more time into listening to us, and I was very impressed with that. I'll just mention the Oakville Trafalgar Memorial Hospital was built to be expanded, and there's you can add 124 beds to that hospital at a quarter the cost of building new beds in a new hospital. And I know the province has announced a whole bunch of new hospitals, and I mentioned that we can get those beds operational faster than a new build. So a quarter the cost and twice as, well, 4 times as fast. So this is something that I'm really hopeful will have cut some ice in that consultation. So I'm going to be tuned in to the budget to see if that was heard. Before we go too much further, I want to also thank you for the outstanding support that our community got during the pandemic. And I'm saying it in that kind of hopeful, optimistic way that it may be behind us, because we're now in kind of a 3 weeks a step relaxation of restrictions. And, you know, it's, you know, we're all optimistic thanks to the vaccines, and let's hope that we continue to do well. You know, you two are the MPPs for one of the communities that weathered, you know, in terms of the health damage and in terms of the death rate and the case rate, our community came through the pandemic better than many. Mm-hmm. And for that matter, our province came through the pandemic better than, you know, I get messages from people wanting us to be like Sweden, and they killed, you know, twice as many people on a per capita basis as Canada, and 4 times as many as died in Oakville. So I'm often, when I look at those stats, I'm often pretty glad that we aren't Swedes, we're Oakvillians. Although some have called us Oakvillans in the past. So now there's a matter of growth. It's very hot. the Housing Affordability Task Force report is out on the 8th of February, and it makes a whole bunch of recommendations. I'm concerned about some of them, and I would just want to live in front of live on television. I want to tell you that Oakville's been doing its share of fast growth, and we have often had significant portions of new growth at affordable price marks as defined by the province. And so I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's a bunch of suggestions or recommendations in this task force. Do away with neighborhood character, do away with heritage, get the public out of the planning process. These are some of these are revolutionary, those. And I'd like to suggest that where a municipality is hitting the marks, that we not have to give up those things that make us distinct and make Oakville Oakville. What do you say to that idea? A performance-based approach, if you will.
Well, if I could, Mayor Burton, I would certainly start off and say that as MPPs, as residents, I think, we want to preserve the heritage and beautiful community of Oakville. So I think the context for what is being proposed is still not is being developed. So we appreciate your input on that. And listen, we've got a beautiful downtown. We have so much history in this community. We want to make sure that we keep that. Now, having said that, where the provincial government is at is we have incredible growth in the GTA. We are the fastest growing municipal region in North America. We've got more construction cranes here than anywhere in North America. We've got incredible growth. We've got incredible immigration from other provinces, from other parts of Ontario, from other parts of the world. So the GTA is growing. Now, there's a lot of people that want to protect farmland. We want to protect the green belt. We want to protect Glen Abbey, and I do too. I mean, these are important attributes which make our province a great place to work, live, and raise a family. Now, with that, we're going to have to intensify. There's no doubt about it. We need to put more people in certain locations, and they're going to have to be a little tighter. If we want to save Glen Abbey, if we want a green belt, if we want parks, and I think most of us do, we're going to have to intensify in certain areas, and we're going to have to listen to what builders, what municipalities, what local mayors, council people, residents, consumers, advocates for the homeless and affordable housing, all of them, what they think we need to do and get their input. You've provided a suggestion or two. We certainly appreciate that. But at the end of the day, the province is between a rock and a hard place in terms of what we need to do. And we do need to take action. I think one thing we all agree on is the lack of affordable housing and housing affordability in the province, particularly in Oakville. So these are important issues. I'll pass it off to my colleague.
Thank you, Stephen.
Well, I just want to just before you go, Effie, Stephen, in three of the last 6 years, Oakville, half of all new housing in Oakville was affordable according to your province's definition. So don't be so quick to assume that Oakville isn't performing, because I obviously need to brief you on that so that you can be prouder of what we're doing.
No, absolutely. It's a question of it's a province-wide, GTA-wide issue, right? I think we all agree. I mean, Oakville's got very high house prices because it's such a great community to live. So we need to help make housing more affordable, because we all know that incomes have not grown anywhere near the same pace in terms of relative to the cost of buying a first home. And we've all got to put our minds together on this, federal, provincial, and municipal, to figure out what we can do. And we certainly appreciate your input.
Listen, I haven't had success yet with your government, but I feel like I'm making more progress than I made with the previous two. The Urban Growth Center, which is the Oakville GO Station area, the province's Urban Growth Center for Oakville is the 100 hectares or 247 acres around the Oakville GO Station, and it's been locked and blocked by the province's failure through three governments to fix the capacity of the QEW through that stretch. And for a mere $67 million or so, I could give you more affordable housing than you could use right there. And I believe that your message about we have to intensify, I believe our town understands that it's a trade-off between saving the things we want to save. And I thought you said that very well.
Mm-hmm.
And we now have applications for very tall towers with very affordable housing in it for the Midtown area. And we can approve them, but we can't let them build because there's no capacity for the people to get in, on and off the QEW. So I thank you. I do have a meeting coming up with one of the ministers in charge of infrastructure to talk about, authorizing some money to help that happen. But it's crucial to do that. We're talking about homes for a minimum of 20,000 people and jobs right there in Midtown, and that's without giving up heritage, neighborhood character, or letting the public participate.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Mayor Burton. We're on the same page, and I'll continue to advocate within my government to help get those changes in place so that we can develop that. Because you're right, there's a lot of affordable housing that can go in there. Some commercial development, of course, is going to create jobs, and it hopefully will reduce the need for cars. I mean, people are still going to need cars, but the idea is to build and intensify around transportation corridors like the GO station. So we're certainly on the same page on that.
Yeah,
great, super.
I think it's an innovative approach and an innovative solution, and would actually meet many of our objectives, not least of which, not just the affordable housing component, but also, as you were mentioning, making it easier for people to be able to go to work, to be able to use public transportation, to be able to use GO trains. And, I'd also add, Mayor, that in my own community in North Oakville, as you well know, a lot of the growth and intensification is actually taking place in that part of Oakville where there has been available land. And I do believe that it's a solution that we need to bring all the actors to the table to discuss, federal, provincial, municipal leaders, to be able to look at housing going forward. Because as we know, on average, 400,000 new entrants to Canada come to Canada and usually end up in the greater GTA. They end up here, the largest bulk of people that emigrate to Canada, and they need to be able to have a place to live and a place to work. And usually they travel to communities like ours because, as you know, it's not just a great place to work, but also a great place to live. So we need to be able to be thinking along those lines and planning ahead, because 400,000 new Canadians are coming into the country every year.
Well, there's an expression, from your lips to God's ears, and I'll just change it, from your lips to the ministers and the premier's ears. Your mention of, get everybody at the table. I can tell you that the mayors of the GTA are still a little put out that the Housing Affordability Task Force had no municipal representation whatsoever. And I really feel like they'd have done a better job if they had the voice of experience available. But anyway, we'll move on from that. I wanted to congratulate you on your record in getting new schools for your fast-growing area, and you've got quite a few to go before you keep up with the growth that's there. So I hope that you'll keep in mind that if there's anything I can do to help you get more schools for that area, you only have to whistle, to steal a line from Casablanca there and reverse the roles. But anyway, let's take a quick look at the wish list for the future in Oakville. I mentioned the 124 beds at OTMH, which will be needed to service all the growth that we're promising to take on. And I mentioned the other half of the bus fleet needing to be converted to electric. But and we talked about the forthcoming wants of preserving neighborhood character and heritage and zoning and so on. But I wanted to know if there are any things on your horizon, either in the budget that's about to come out, or any promises that you want to unveil now for your event on June 2nd.
Well, maybe I could start by saying that, as we know,
Sure.
The budget is always under wraps by the Minister of Finance until it's actually officially introduced into the legislature. So I don't know that Minister Bethlenfalvy has given any insights to Stephen or myself as to what will be in the budget specifically. What I can talk to you though about is and you will have heard the minister in the various roundtables that we've had recently. Stephen and I were with the Oakville Chamber, and we had a roundtable with Minister Bethlenfalvy, but before that, there were consultations throughout the Halton region. I believe making those key investments that we've already been making in the last 3.5 years are vital. Investing in health and in long-term care, investing in our infrastructure, and investing in education. Those are all priority areas for our government moving forward. And I don't think that you will be disappointed in the budget because they'll be reflected. We're going to be looking as well, at the light at the end of the tunnel. And what does that look like post-COVID? How can we continue to be able to grow the economy and move the economy forward, create good jobs, create the skilled training that's required for many of our workers? So you'll see many more of those kinds of investments reflected in our go forward. Interestingly, I know that the minister recently indicated that we had actually grown the economy despite the pandemic by 160,000 new jobs while we're in the pandemic. So I believe once we have the pandemic in our rear view mirror, that we're going to be able to be such a catalyst for growth, not just in Ontario, but across Canada. I believe that we'll be able to get back to that engine of growth that our province truly is. And of course, as you know, with the kind of investments going in at the Ford Canada plant and elsewhere, Oakville will be very well placed, and our community will be very well placed for the jobs that will come from that.
Well, that's a very good summary, and it kind of puts the show in the rearview mirror because now we only have a few seconds left. So thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Effie, for being here. And my final thank you to you and your government is the Safe Restart money and the keeping the towns and the cities whole from the COVID costs have been a really big favor and boon to the property taxpayers, and I'm sure they'll appreciate you as much as the mayors do. Thank you, everybody, for watching today, and I hope I see you next time.